Hello, friends and family. Welcome back to this week's episode of The Embodied Healing Self. I'm here this week with a beautiful soul sister of mine who lives in Bend, Oregon. Her name is Emma Jensen. And I am really excited to share her with you today.
Been called a lot of things.
So I'm really excited to share her with you today. She is just such a beautiful person inside and out. And we are here to talk about something that I think is going to be super fun and interesting for the listeners. So for those of you that have been in this community for a while, you've been listening, you know that the guests that I bring in the show, they all have special gifts to share in the world. And it was a year ago that Emma and I were in a mastermind together with Amber Lillystrom. And we shared a moment together. Emma and I, we just hopped on the phone and had a little session together. And the moment that we connected in our own space and I was able to just feel her energy, I was just like, oh, she's so lovely and so sweet. And I immediately had this just beautiful vision of Emma with animals. And I just remember this really profound, beautiful vision or this feeling of like, wow, this woman is an animal healer, but she helps to heal people through animals. And I was feeling like retreats and kind of the mountainside somewhere, and it was just so beautiful. But at the time, as I shared in her intro, she was working for corporate America. So I'm really excited not only to share her gifts in the world and how she is helping to heal the world globally by healing animals and their owners and our connection to animals, but also to encourage and inspire those of you that might be feeling and noticing that you're in a position of working and doing a service in the world that is not fulfilling, to give you hope and inspiration that you can choose to do the work that you love and trust that the abundance and the support will be there, because that has been her journey in just not even a year, right? So thank you, Emma, for being here. I'm really excited to share my personal story with the audience too, because I still to this day am just like blown away like by how gifted you really are. So we're going to talk animal intuition, talking with our pets and their spirits, how we allow them to be healers. And we might even get into a little human design, because she is deeply in love with human design and how that relates to our relationships in our lives. So thank you, Emma, so much for being here.
Thank you. And oh my gosh, thank you so much for that beautiful opening. And I was actually just thinking about that time that we spent together a year ago, basically, and how clearly you saw me. And like, that was the biggest takeaway for me. And it still hits me now. And like, when we're not together, of just like how there's been few people in my life that have been able to see me so clearly, and clearer than I could see myself at the time. Because yeah, I was working for Apple. Like, I was just at the time exploring animal communication and healing. And I think at the time healing wasn't even a part of it. It wasn't even something that was on the radar. And then as things go, it just kind of naturally became part of the process. But it was just, I started crying when you were talking. So thank you so much for that. I'm so excited to be here and to talk about all the things with all the people, and hopefully share something that's really impactful.
Yeah, I'm actually feeling a little bit emotional too, because it's a beautiful part of the work that we do to be able to witness people step into their fullness, right? And so for me, as a person who sees energy, like I saw this energy field, that your aura is very, very, very clear. It's really clear, and it was just there. And it was almost like it was just being held for you to just step into, but you did it, and you've done it, and you're doing it. And because you're doing it, I think what I want to say is like, it's like you answered the call to step into your purpose, like in the work that you do, right? You answered the call, and because you did, I'm like getting goosebumps. Like lives are changing because you are doing what you're supposed to do, not what you thought you were supposed to do. Like you and I both have this history, right? I was a former mechanical engineer and in the military. So we can talk about, following our father's footsteps and the whole story behind it. But that when we actually choose to step into what feels really good, and it's like what we're doing naturally already, even if we're not sharing it, because at the time you weren't talking about animals at all. And I felt a little funny saying it because I was like, she's like an Apple girl. I don't know where this is coming from. And then as soon as I said it, you're like, oh my gosh, yes. And so much I think what I want to share is like, when you say yes to what you're meant to do, it's almost like the whole world, God, the universe, just like hands you the gift you've been waiting for. And it's been beautiful to witness you. And then I got to be a part of you, kind of navigating, like dipping your toe in that. Like, I think I'm going to tell people that I can communicate with animals. And we had a puppy for a year. And so I was like, yeah, like I want you to read my dog. And so I want to just share with the audience because it was super profound. Like I still get humbled by how connected we are as people, like how all of this, like how could all of this possibly be so true? So Emma started to explore her abilities and her gifts to speak with animals, to tap into them. And so I jumped right on and said, I'd like you to read my dog. And she, what was so profound to me and just blew my mind. Like you did a recording and we were listening to the recording, like with my kids and my husband in the car. And so I didn't tell you my dog's name.
Nope.
I forgot to tell you. I just sent you a picture. And when you asked her name, she actually gave you, or what you heard was the nickname of the dog that I had before, who, well, I've had many dogs, but there was a dog I had, Koa, and I was unable to care for him when my daughter was born because lots of health issues and I was in survival mode. And so I left him with a family in Arizona, and but we called him Coco. So it was like my nickname for him, just mine, right? Like little Coco. And so that was the name that came through. And then I went back and I looked, and I kept in touch with the family, of course, who took Koa. And I look back in my Facebook Messenger, the day that they put him down, the next day was the day that my puppy came into my life. Well, she came in through my daughter. She I think my younger daughter talks to animals too. So I just was like, okay, well, there's like an essence in this puppy related to, and I could feel it. And it's like, there's things in her personality that like my husband and I laugh now. We're just like, oh yeah, that's like, she's channeling him or something. So I just want to share that, like, not that we need validation, but I think sometimes we feel like we do. But when stuff like that happens, you're just like, wow. And then all the stuff you said about like her personality and her behavior and everything were just spot on without me even telling you. So it, for me, was really such a healing experience because it just allowed me to connect with her in a deeper way and release, because for 11 years, I carried like a little bit of guilt for not being able to, care for him, even though he went to a better family, but I just missed him. And now I feel like he's here and she's here. So that was really amazing for me. And it just goes to show the depth of healing that your work does. And thank you for allowing me to share that story. I want to start by asking you, how did you get into this? When did you know you had this connection with animals?
Yeah. And I also love the story. And I find that when I ask animals things, certain stuff will come through and I'll be like, are you sure? Like Coco, because I remember specifically, which doesn't always happen because I have to write everything down. Otherwise, like it's gone by the time I get out of
Because
the
you're
connection.
channeling.
Exactly. But I'll always remember she was like Coco or Cocoa. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like, are you sure? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And then I share whatever they say because whatever they have to say is so impactful for the other and for them. And it's something that is so important for them to share that I'm like, okay, like I'll just share it. And more oftentimes than not, then I hear back from the owner and they're like, oh my gosh, this thing or that thing. And I'm like, well, okay, this is why I had to share it. But to answer your question, so I know there's a lot of animal communicators that are like, yeah, I've always known since I was a kid. And I've always been connected to animals, but I don't think I ever understood that I had this ability until like a year and a half ago, when I've always been connected to animals. I have animals of my own, and I've always been really connected to them. And before understanding intuition, really having like a very, I guess, strong intuition about them. And like when I got my dog, his name was Havarti at the shelter. And when I was at the shelter and he chose me, I heard his name clear as day in my head, and his name was Ranger. And I'm like, okay, like your name's Ranger. And he's always been so associated with it. And so not understanding then that I actually was communicating, like we were communicating with each other, but understanding and really embodying that was really more a year and a half ago, when I essentially joined a mastermind to learn from a canine intuitive to really learn how to communicate with animals. But now, like looking back at it, it was really just the permission for me to
Yeah,
explore it. Then it was like me actually learning, if that makes sense. Like
absolutely.
I just needed somebody to say like, yes, go ahead and try. And then whenever I did, I was like, oh my gosh, like there's all these things that are coming out. And so then I really just got to explore it from there. So it's been just kind of a journey since then of really stepping into it and owning it and then developing it more, and not just kind of allowing it, not taking it for granted or not understanding what's happening.
Yeah. And what's so powerful about the work that you do is that our animals, whether we consciously know it or not, are our healers. They really
Uh-huh.
are. That's why we love them so much, because it feels good to be around them. They love us unconditionally, which that alone is enough, right? But they also, well, the way I see it, you would know, you're really the expert, but they take on our energy. They see
Mm-hmm.
us clearly. They see us, they love us, they worry,
Mm-hmm.
they do all the things, right? And they're also, what's interesting is they're also animals, so they're also really present. Like what I'm feeling is like, I don't know that they have the complicated thoughts that we as humans have, right? Like I was thinking about that the other day. It's like, if we actually really learn to
Mm-hmm.
pay attention to our animals more, we can learn a lot about ourselves, right?
Oh, yes, like 1,000%. So one of the questions that I always ask animals, regardless if an owner asks me to or not, is what are you here to teach your mom, your dad, your family, whomever? And the answer is always more profound than like, oh, I'm here to teach them patience, or I'm here to teach them responsibility, or whatever you think you're getting an animal for, that they're maybe going to teach you about you or the world or whatever. Like when I asked my animal what he was here to teach me, or actually what he was most scared of, because he's been very anxious. He was very anxious. And I was expecting him to say, um, like cars or people or loud noises or something like that. And he said that he was scared that I wasn't going to learn what he came here to teach me.
Oh.
Yeah, which then like cued all of the waterworks, of course. And he's here to teach me to trust myself and to
Hmm.
really like step into what I'm here to do. And the more that I've been able to do that, I know. And the more that I've been able to do that, the less anxious he's become.
Oh
And
my
so I
gosh.
really have seen, not only in my own life, but also in clients' lives, that when the animal feels like their message has been received, or it's been embodied, or it's been implemented, things change. Like I recently had a client that was really worried about their animal because she started acting really anxious, and she wasn't sure if something was wrong with her, if she should take her to the vet, or like what was happening. And we did a session, and she had lots of things to say, because they tend to have lots of things to say, right? Because there's not usually an outlet that they know that their messages are getting across. And as soon as she received the messages, she went back to normal. Like her dog went back to normal. She's like, it was instant. I couldn't believe it. And sometimes it's instant, and sometimes it takes longer, because like in my my example, my dog is like such a deep teacher and healer, that he's going to keep his behaviors until I'm truly have learned the lesson, until I'm truly in it. And then, but being able to see how, when I step into myself, the more that he's kind of able to do that as well, then I know I'm on the right path, and I know that I'm doing the best thing for him. So it's almost like his behavior drives me to be better, and to like to step through the fear, because there's always going to be fear, right? Like when I left a corporate job that was paying a really good salary to do something that I'm so passionate about, and I know is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, but not with, the certainty,
security,
exactly. And the security. And I mean, you can always say, like, of course you can get fired from your job at any moment, but there's still that like inherent security that like things are okay, and that you have benefits, and you're getting a salary every month, and all of these things. But knowing that I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to do, and just to pull in human design just really quickly, that who I am within human design is not somebody that should be working at a corporate job in order to be the most healthy version of myself. And the more that I learned that, the more I was able to step into this role. And the more that I do it, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why did it take me so long? Because being able to see what the impact is on the other side is like everything to me. So they are our deepest healers. They are our deepest teachers if we allow them to be. But also, like, I started doing healing, like I said, just kind of naturally fell into it. And I really prefer doing healing and then having a conversation, and not just doing a conversation alone, because they do take on so much of our stuff. And sometimes they do need some help really like circulating it through, or like removing it and allowing it to drain out. And they have their own stuff too, right? Like they're animals. They have their own things, stuff that they came into this life with, and they sometimes need help too. And so I find that the more that I'm able to do the healing and the conversation, the bigger the transformation tends to be than just a conversation alone.
Wow, such good stuff. I think what was really profound for me as I was listening to you talk is just the realization that they are part of our soul family. They choose us just like we choose our parents, or this is my belief, right? Like our kids choose us. I know 100% all of our dogs. I look back now and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's, one of my dogs' name in the pound was Jenny, which isn't my name. And then I was like, she's not the kind of dog I'm looking for, right? And she's like, but I'm, it's just like every time, right? Yeah. So same thing with the dog we have now. Like we had an idea of what we were going to get, and then my daughter spends the night at her friend's grandmother's house who's fostering 6 puppies, and this one literally like walked up to my daughter and was like, my daughter never asked for anything, and she's like, we've been thinking about getting a dog. I think this is the one. She said it once. And when she said it, I was like, like I felt it. And I was like, this is the one. And I was leaving town for 10 days to go on a transformational retreat. And I told my husband, and we weren't ready, of course, right? Like all we could think of every excuse. And I just knew. And she's an angel. And she's like she's just perfect for our family. And so as I'm hearing you talk, it's like, I love how you said that Ranger, like, he came into this life and he stands in his own energy as a teacher for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that as humans as well, right? For other people, as you do that for your clients, I do it for my clients. But I don't know that we stop to think about like what our animals are actually doing for us. I mean, we're aware of it, but I mean, just as a whole, as a human race, like what I really want to invite people to lean into is the space that these animals have chosen to be in as a part of our lives, and how it's our soul family, it's our family, it's like our connections with people. And like you said, what I loved is, if we can listen, then what we will notice is our own personal healing that takes place. And so thank you for sharing all of that. And I love that your sessions are two parts. It's communicating with the animal so that you have something to share with the clients, which, by the way, she's a wonderful note taker, like so organized, such a great note taker. Everything is so clear and so easy to understand. And there was a video recording. It was just really wonderful. And that you're also doing healing work with the animals in the session too. I think that's really beautiful. So what do people who come to you, what are they typically looking for?
Yeah. So a lot of times I think, so I hesitate just because I think they think they're coming for something, but
Yeah,
they're coming for
of
something
course.
different. But a lot of times it's because of behaviors or reactivity, or the animals just acting in a certain way that they don't necessarily love. And so they want to understand a deeper why it's happening, and then how they can make it better, or how they can support them. And there is a lot of are they happy, what can I do, what do they want more of, what do they want less of. So it's a little bit split, and just like I just kind of want to know what's going on, and like if they're happy. And also like why do they keep barking at, or like why are they whining all the time, or why do they react to dogs on leash, or XYZ. And it's never that reactivity on leash equals this every time. It's that it's different for each animal, for each human, because what I find that, and I've learned this even through my own experience, some people need larger clues or behavior to pull out certain things, or to draw attention to certain things than other people do. So where some people could just have an animal that maybe like sheds all the time, or like just has maybe some kind of behavior that is a little bit annoying, but isn't like a game changer,
Mm.
could be the same message as somebody who has a dog that's attacked people. And it's just because most likely that human needs much larger signs and clues to point them in the direction that they're meant to go, where somebody else is maybe can see the subtle clues and can see like the changes that need to happen. And whether that's just you're more tuned in or not, it's a lot of different things, and just like who we are as people. And I know for me, I need lots of signs to understand where to go. So I didn't leave my corporate job when everybody else in my life is like, why are you still there? Like, why don't you just go do this thing? And I'm like, but I don't know if it's the right thing yet. I need another sign. And, the universe is very kind to me and gave me lots of signs until I finally was able to step out and do it. But it's amazing. My deepest intention for when I go into the sessions is really, yes, to answer the questions that the owners have, but really I want to create a deeper bond and a deeper understanding and relationship between animal and owner, so that there's more of an understanding, and that they can step through life from this point on in a much more cohesive way than maybe they were beforehand. which I do hear a lot of like, oh my gosh, it just like, we have such a better relationship. Like I look at her so differently, or she looks at me so differently. And it's because now we have this understanding between each other that, you know, she's not just a dog, or she's not just a cat or a horse or whatever, that she really is part of the family. And I now understand
Yes.
where she's coming from, and I understand her thoughts and her feelings and all of this stuff that now brings us closer together. That is easy for us to do with our own family because we all speak the same language
Mm-hmm.
most of the time. But when it's something, it's an animal, it's even, you know, plants and stuff have their own energies and thoughts and stuff. But with our own animals, like when we're able to put words to behavior, words to who they are, it just creates such a cooler dynamic, and just like
Yeah.
it creates a deeper family than before.
Yeah. And I love how you shared, you know, it's like shifting our perception of they're they're not just like pets. They're, like
Yeah.
I said, they're like our family members. And my mind wants to ask the question, like the logical part of my mind wants to
Uh-huh.
come in and ask and just be curious about, like, well, what do you notice? Like, how do you have discernment on personality behaviors based on breed? Because I really see that a lot. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when I don't want to be attached to identities, I practice that, you know, as a human. But like, even just the little, so the dog that we have is like treeing walker, coonhound, foxhound, and she has those behaviors of like a hunting dog. And so, you know, as I've had many, many different breeds, most of them, all of them mutts, like throughout my life. But I think it's kind of also fun to witness the different behaviors and personality types that the different breeds have. And I'm wondering kind of what are your thoughts or insights on that versus the personality or the, you know, sort of how they're showing up in relation to the family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So awesome question. Yeah. So there's going to be things that are just innately true for your animal because of who they are, just like for us people. So like if you have like a coonhound or a hunting dog, they might have more of a prey drive. Or even if you have like a German Shepherd or one of these more working type dogs, they're going to have a bigger prey drive than maybe a like I wanted to say border collie, but like that's not even a little bit true because they have a big prey drive. But like somebody like even a lab is pretty, or like a golden retriever, like they're a little bit more lots of energy, but not necessarily a big prey drive. And so a lot of what I see is I don't necessarily see their personality that's related to their trait, it's or to their breed. I see more their personality or their behaviors related more to like who they are
Mm.
individually. And
Which
so
probably helped them to choose what type of breed they were going to be, right? Maybe like, you know,
totally.
it's part of the setup, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like my dog has a pretty high prey drive. He is what I call a shelter special and has like 5 different breeds in him. So,
Yeah.
but he like, I don't see his prey drive as a quote unquote issue. It's innately a part of him. There are ways that we can communicate about it of like, hey, I don't want you to go kill things, or
Mm-hmm.
I want you to come back like when you're done, or I don't want you to hurt or whatever. But I'm not going to look at that and see that as a quote unquote issue.
Mm-hmm.
More of what I see are things that are either like it takes it above and beyond. So it's more of like becomes maybe an obsessive thing
Mm.
where like a lab won't let go of a ball, and or it gets really resource guardy around toys or balls or frisbees or whatever their thing is. And what I find a lot with that, when the behavior becomes less like breed specific and more obsessive, or you know they take it too far, is that there's usually a lack of fulfillment in some place in their life because of that. And so that's where that's how it's showing up. And so a lot of it is whether, you know, they're not getting enough
You
exercise.
just answered I just got my intuitive hit. Keep talking. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll share it with you.
Okay. they're not getting enough exercise, or if you're like, no, like I run my dog all the time, like what are you talking about? Well, are you using their brain? Like maybe they're really asking for their to use their brain and not just their muscles. And if you're not like stimulating them with brain games or like hide and seek, or doing other things, it's not just like go play fetch, which go play fetch is can a lot of times ramp up a dog more than tire them out, because they're getting them super excited. So now they're like,
Yeah.
instead of, if you go on like a structured walk or even a walk, they're now using their head a little bit more if you're making them stay within you and not pull on the leash. If you're just allowing them to pull on the leash, well, now they're taking control, and now they're not really getting drained of anything because they're taking the lead, and that's going to give them more energy. But if you're able to look at, okay, if my dog's like, or animal in general is overly anything, where am I potentially lacking for them in order to fulfill whatever their needs are? If you have a very prey drivey dog, they're going to need a lot more of your engagement
Mm-hmm.
than another dog that's just going to like kind of hang out. Like
Right.
it, you have to find what works for your dog, which do have people ask like, what do they need to become more fulfilled? Or like, if I can sense it when I get in there, I'm like, okay, what do you need more of? Because like, obviously something's not being met here. So how can we meet that need that you are lacking in? And a lot, like, at least lately for some of the dogs that I've been doing, a lot of it's been brain games, especially in this time of like staying at home. So if anybody has a dog that's like has these like crazy kind of behaviors that are a little bit more obsessive, try engaging their brain, whether it's in tug or like training, or like puzzles and hide and seek or things like that, to drain them of their brain energy. Because for me, that shows up as very frenetic, and I can almost sense like it's shaking on the outside of like their bodies, and I can help get that away, but it comes back.
Yeah, gosh, I'm as you're speaking, I'm having like all these like visions coming in, and I'm just like really feeling for the dogs too. Like I'm just thinking about like how they must feel not being able to communicate, what they're experiencing, and just how grateful they must be for
Yeah,
you, to the willingness to show up and to be able to create that bridge. It's like you're the bridge between the owner and the pet in that relationship. And the intuitive hit that I got while you were talking is, well, I was going to share my personal experience, which is that my dog is the perfect angel, except every once in a while she has this tendency to want to escape out the front
mm,
door and just like take off. And when she takes off, she runs, and she doesn't look if she's running across the street. Now, luckily, we don't live in a very busy neighborhood, but we do live in a neighborhood. We live like in a place surrounded by a state park. And so it's less trafficy, but it causes a lot of stress for us. And then I remembered when you first shared how she found us, she was smelling her way on the
yeah,
beach to us.
yeah.
And so when the beach was closed for a month, she wasn't getting her walks on the beach, and she was
Mm,
escaping. And she's escaped before, but this new setup that we're in right now with this COVID-19 that we're experiencing, my daughter wakes up every morning and she takes her to the beach. She's getting like 3 walks a day to the beach now, and she doesn't escape anymore. And so really it's just like it's nothing, it's not anything to make her wrong for. She just
mhm,
needs to go to the beach every day because
yeah.
she's a hound. She it's interesting to witness her as you're speaking now. I'm understanding her more because her nose is always moving, her
Mhm.
ear, like she's hypersensitive, right? So a walk to the beach is like Disney World for her. I mean, it's overstimulating. And she comes
Mhm.
back and she sleeps for hours after that because she just smelled things miles away. And like,
Yeah.
you know, so it doesn't take much just to walk to the beach. And that's all she really needs. And so, as
Yeah.
you said that, as we've been doing that, she's not escaping anymore. And then I thought back about how when you first, did this reading for us, that's how she found us. That was the vision that you had, is that she was smelling her way on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
We live 2 blocks from the beach to come to us. And plus, we're a very, very active beach family. We surf, we windsurf, we were always on the beach. So she
Yeah,
chose wisely.
totally.
Yeah, because she actually, Jacksonville's really big, and she was in town like an hour away, and my friend's mother's house that she was a part of, it's like a totally different part of Florida. It is not the beach, it is like forest and swampy, and so yeah, it all happened divinely. So
Yeah.
I know that we've got a few more minutes here, and I want to ask you about how you can help people who've maybe lost their pets, or whose pets have transitioned recently.
Yeah.
This is a heavy grieving experience for many of
Totally.
us, and I want to allow you space to just share what that experience could be like for
Yeah.
a person if they choose to do it, and just kind of expand on
Mhm.
that a little bit.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. Um, I I love connecting in with animals who have passed, because a lot of times when we've lost a pet, there's this sense of like a piece of us is missing, or a sense of guilt, even if we did everything we could. There's still this, like, are they okay? There's almost like these unanswered questions. And what I love about it is that I'm able to really get to show the owner where they're at and how they're doing, and give them that peace of mind of where they are now, and what they're doing, and who they're with, and their thoughts on everything. And the pets that I have connected in with who have passed, a lot of them are so happy, because they're sad to obviously not be with their family, but they're so happy because now they are like busy creating all these different connections or interactions for their family to now partake in, or they're getting what they call a present ready to send to them, whether it's another animal, or a person, or an experience, or them reincarnated to come back to them.
Mm.
But there's usually this like flurry of
Now
um
the work begins, right?
yeah, exactly, of like, okay, like, and sometimes there is this a little bit of longing of, they didn't quite learn what I was here to teach them. So there's a little bit of loss on their side of like what they came to do wasn't fulfilled. So it's like, okay, like, time to do it again. What can I do this time that really will ensure that they do learn it? And it can be really difficult for a person who has had their animal pass to open the space to do it, because there's a lot of this like, well, what if? And like, what am I going to hear? What am I going to find? Are they upset? um, and it can be very vulnerable. And so there's two different ways that I do readings. One's live, and one's the recording. So one that I do through meditation, and I create a recording, and then I send that to you. And I find that those can be a little bit easier for animals who have passed, and that have like that hold this like deep meaning with you, because it gives you a space that you get to create in order to receive the message. And it can be on your own time, and it can just be you, and you're not
Mm.
with somebody else that doesn't necessarily know you or your animal very well, and you're free to really just feel into that experience in whatever way makes you feel best.
Do you have a
And
cat on your lap?
yeah, sorry.
I'm
Yeah, Sadie decided to
I'm
wake up.
watching a tail. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's woken up and wants to go outside now.
oh.
Um
She knows that
so
we're almost done, Sadie. Don't worry.
yeah. She's definitely become an adventure cat, that's for sure. She likes
Mm.
to be outside doing all the things. Um but yeah, I one of my really good friends, her dog ended up getting cancer, and I started doing like weekly sessions with her, which was really helpful for her and him to really kind of understand each other as they went through the process. And then after he passed, he actually showed up a lot in my readings. So he would pop in and have messages for her. And what I find is that they really want us to feel okay about everything. They don't want us to grieve forever and really miss out on life because, right, like they came here to teach us really cool things. And if we stop that learning because we're just so deep in grief because of them or for them, then that can be a little bit sad for them. They're like, no, like I'm with you still. You just can't physically see me, but I don't want you to stop. Like, I want you to keep going. I want you to learn all of the things that I came here to teach you. And if you stop because of me, then I feel like, I'm not fulfilling my role here. And they just like, I love connecting in with them because there's always like a flurry of some kind of engagement going on, and it they get to bring some peace of mind to their owner, which from what I've, the feedback I've gotten really does happen. But I do know that it's such a vulnerable thing, especially if it's really new.
Yeah.
To allow somebody into that space, that sacred space between you and your animal. And if you do become ready, you can learn like what they were here to teach you. You can learn what they're up to, what signs maybe that they are sending you.
Yeah. Or how they're still with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Like one of my friends, the same dog actually, one of his signs that he's around is a frog, whether it's, a real frog or a picture of a frog. And after I had this connection with him, I was walking outside and I saw a frog, and like in the shape, it was like a stump in the shape of a frog, which sounds really weird, but I like,
yeah.
like no joke. I'm like, I like took a picture and sent it to her. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, do you see this right now? So it can give a more of like a physical thing for you to see and to understand and to know that, okay, they are here. Because a lot of it is just giving validation and confirmation to the owner that what they feel or what they know is true about their animal. Yeah. And it's just like same with human design. It's just like giving you confirmation and validation that, yes, you were right. Like you do know, you innately know, you just need somebody to tell you that you're right.
Well, and what I love about human design, because I'm a very visual person, is you have the visual of how it works. And so I'm really feeling like I'd love to have you come back on and talk about human design sometime. And but animal communication is definitely one of your gifts. And as I'm listening to you speak, I'm just kind of blown away at like how very similar it is to when human spirits pass. Like it's the same communication. And I'm wondering if or like, wouldn't it be cool to have like, there's human design, but pet design that integrates in with human design, right? Because why would it be that different other than there's got to be something different because just physiologically, like the way their brains work, like there's just some energy differences there. I would imagine that if I could, like I'm imagining seeing the energy of pets being very heart-centered, whereas humans are very like mind-centered, trying to connect to the heart. So it's a different energy, right? But wouldn't that be cool to like, or is there a tool out there? Is there?
So you actually can run your animal's chart. I don't know a lot about it. I haven't been able to find a ton of information. They have less centers than humans do because again,
makes sense.
We're different. But you do need their time, which is in like their birth date and time and location, which can be tricky. Hard sometimes if you got your animal from a shelter and they don't know when they were born, or like I'm guessing on my dog's like birthday and time, and I know he's from Georgia, but I don't really know where. And But you totally can run a chart for your animal. So it's definitely possible.
Yeah, how fun. I mean, I love human design as well. Like and I know we didn't get into that today, but you know, when I just see the behaviors of like my children, I just remind myself like, oh yeah, well, there's this part to her where she's
Mm-hmm.
seeking this, and it just kind of allows more compassion and
Yeah.
acceptance and just, for where we all are. So,
Yeah.
um, what's new and exciting for you? What are you most excited about right now? Do you have, with this time that we've been given, are you planning anything or kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the newest thing is that I started this human design support group, which is for those who I've done readings for, that it's like an additional support. So like once you get all this information and you've had readings, of course, and for anybody who's had readings, you understand that like there's a lot of information that you would get. And then a lot of times you're like, wait, but I don't understand how to implement this in my life, or I'm not exactly sure what it all means exactly. Like, wait, I need a reminder. Like, can you explain this to me again? And what does this mean? So it's just an additional support place where you can go to understand like how to live your design and how to implement your specific design. And then once a month, I'm teaching something on human design or within the
Mm,
chart, and then answering questions live as well. So that's for people that I've done readings for. And then it's like a monthly membership type of thing
yeah.
where you can come in and get additional support for however long that you need. And then you can get out.
You know what's also fun, which just hit me about human design, is it's also a great tool to kind of figure out if it's good to collaborate with somebody, like for your business and stuff too, right? Like there's so many things you could do with it. My personal coaching program is a 12 module program. It takes 9 months, and it's really created around the chakra system. And one of them, the 11th, is specifically around human design and soul contract, where I I have co-created and I contract out, because I haven't trained in human design. I've just
Yeah.
read about it. I'm very familiar with it because I really do love it. But I was just thinking, like, what a great way for people to really fully understand, like, when things are in alignment and when they aren't, and just providing clarity around that, right? Like just
Yeah.
clarity around relationships with people in whatever way that shows up. So super
Yes.
fun. We'll definitely have to have you to come back and share that. But for now, I just want
Sure.
to thank you for coming on here to share about our beloved pets and their significance in our own healing and in the world, and really on an energetic collective conscious healing that they're doing. They show up as our teachers, and they show up
Yeah.
as our snugglers and our healers, and they're just bringing light to really how huge of a role they play in our soul family. So thank you so much for sharing that. Where can people find you?
And thank you for having me. It's always beautiful getting to talk to you.
I know.
People can find me at www.connected-consciousness.com. And then that's where all the things are.
Awesome. All right. And I'll have other ways for people to find you in the show notes, um, to reach out to you for animal readings or human
Yeah,
design readings. So thank you
perfect.
so much, Emma. It's been such
Thank
a pleasure. Thank you for allowing me to share
you.
you and your gifts on the show.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to get to connect in with your sweet, sweet, sweet pup and getting to share that, because I really do see that as an honor, being able to connect in and share that space. So thank you. And thank
Yeah,
you for having me.
of course. Yeah, she really is like a little earth angel. If you get to be in her energy, it's like, oh God, she's just the sweetest. Yeah. So
Totally.
so thank you for that. All right, listeners. Well, thank you so much for listening in again, and have a wonderful week. Thanks for joining in. Aloha.